My parents, I don't think they know my channel, which is good and bad.
When she first told them she wanted to be a YouTuber, they said, "You'll fail. Stick to your job as an accountant."
And it's very painful to realize one day that like they think my career choice is trash and they think I'm not talented.
I'm Eric, co-founder of Karat. We help creators with their finances. And join us today for 36 questions to fall in love with Zoe Unlimited. I'm here today with Zoe Unlimited, content creator, entrepreneur, millions of people following your journey from physical, mental, and emotional self-development. Top creator, also still working a full-time job at PayPal Honey, despite winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in a creator contest from Paris Hilton, Jake Paul, and the Chainsmokers. That feel like a good summary and recap?
Wow, better than I could ever do myself. Thank you, Eric.
Trying my best. Yeah, of course. And how did we meet? I don't actually remember. At the Streamies. At the Streamies, yeah. Olivia invited you.
Yes.
I got to say hi to you a little bit. We spoke a bit. And then I saw you were in the final running at the Creator DAO contest to, again, win hundreds of thousands of dollars as a creator. And then you won.
I know. Crazy, crazy time. It's only been a few months, but I feel like a lot has happened since then.
Okay, so first question, right? You're getting a big check, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, they advertise as $1 million. I'm sure after taxes we'll figure out exactly how much it is. But if I recall right, the purpose of that money in the creator contest was to help accelerate your growth as a creator. So what are you going to do with that money?
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been kind of running a one-woman show. I've been doing everything basically by myself up to the very beginning of this year until I started collaborating with other people and trying to expand my team. With that being said, with additional funding, I want to do something just leveling things up a bit more because I did a lot of content that's like vlog, that's commentary, and that's very doable by myself. And now I'm like, why not spice things up and make things more IRL, involve other people, involve other creators and other guests in coming up with a new kind of stylistic approach to making content, as well as just embarking a new journey to document and share with everyone.
I love that. So you want to do things more with other people, not just you in front of a camera.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about? What's the topic, the theming that you want to focus on?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of brainstorming going on with the Creator DAO team as well, but the general focus will be on love because I feel like, I know it sounds a little cliche, but it is definitely a very universal topic that anyone can relate to. And it doesn't just have to be romantic love or platonic love. It could be love and passion for your career. It could be love for a certain hobby or interest.
I like that because as soon as you said love, I was like, of course, romantic love, of course, platonic love. And then you're like, there are other types of love. And I was like, familial?
That too.
Yeah, for your interests, your hobbies, right? It's like what you love about doing in your life.
Yes.
Why focus on love? There are so many things, of course, that you could talk about. And your own work as a creator covers the spectrum from, as you said, commentary, but it's often about your development as a person and such. Why love?
Yeah. I would say it came from my experience in being quote unquote, like technically single for all my life, which is a very interesting background. I feel like not too many people can relate with, but just embarking on that journey to learn more about other people's experiences with love and relationships will not only benefit me as someone growing and like developing my interpersonal relationships, but also other people and other young adults, not necessarily young adults. I feel like it applies to people of all ages, genders, backgrounds, diversity, and so on.
You mentioned you've been technically single your whole life.
Yeah.
What does that mean technically?
Let me ask you a question first. Does that shock you?
I feel like yes, but yeah, it does. It does.
Right? Yeah, I feel like it's something whenever I tell people, they're always like, I don't believe you, or like, what? There's something wrong with you.
I don't believe you, Zoe. And maybe a little bit of like,
It's like, what are you hiding? I would say the technical term is I've never had an official boyfriend in 24 years of my life, because things just have not worked out. And I'm someone who's like, I value my time a lot and I want to spend it on people I truly, genuinely care about and feel will create a genuine connection with, as well as to dedicate my time, which is pretty limited, on things I love doing, including content creation. So if it's not, if a quote unquote relationship or any connection with someone is not adding additional value to my life, I feel like maybe I should just focus that energy on something else.
I love how your handle is Zoe Unlimited. And ironically, to be the most unlimited, best version of yourself, it requires limiting and being smart about where you spend that time.
Exactly. It's about saying the right no's so you can find the right opportunity to say the right yes. For me, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Wow, I really admire that. I'm like the classic, like, I hate saying no. I'm really bad at it. And so my relationship history, everyone I've been with, has been like for like at least like, it's always been like a year or more, because I'm just like, oh no, like it could work. Like, you don't know. And then like eventually it just doesn't, because, you know, it doesn't. But I admire that. It sounds like for yourself, you're just like, hey, like this isn't it.
For sure. But I also admire like your effort in trying to make something work, for sure. And for me, it's more so there has been a period of time where I felt a lot of self-doubt as well, feeling like, because being single as a girl, I'm sure it's the same thing for the other gender as well. There's a lot of societal and cultural pressure for you to at least have some sort of experience and put that label on yourself. But then at the end of the day, I was questioning, like, would I want to be in a relationship just for that label, to satisfy some kind of like cultural duty or like societal expectation of me? Or am I genuinely like wanting to enter that phase in my life? And if I don't have a clear yes, then it's a no for me.
I love the point that people just assume there's a default. Like, oh, like it's if you're not in a relationship with someone, that's what begs the question why. When in reality, should potentially be the other way around, right? You should be with somebody because there's a really good reason why you two form a really good relationship. Like the default should be, hey, stay by yourself until you've really learned to grow into who you want to be. And then, oh, there's a really good person. There's a reason why I want to be with them. That's why I should get with them, versus the opposite. Yeah.
Agreed.
And so I'm really also intrigued. You mentioned technically single, not a boyfriend. So it sounds like there have been people that were considered. Oh, those past participles, was never good at that in school. So considered. And from those relationships, what did you learn about yourself, right? In terms of you were considered and they were passed on.
I would say a lot of things. I don't regret connecting with anyone I have connected with in the past, and I'm like genuinely thankful toward them, whether if it ended well or badly, because at the end of the day, I feel like every person I encountered, good and bad, including like friends or people I've tried to date, at the end of the day are all great lessons. The interactions are like the seeds of growth for me, and they kind of serve as a mirror to reflect who I am as a person and help me figure out who I want to be. For example, I realized through these like interactions that I cannot be with someone who is not passionate about what they're doing. Who is not entirely 100% self-driven about their purpose or their goal.
Yeah, it goes to your point. There are many different types of love, right? Passion for what you do is a type of love. And the next question I'd love to ask you is, so what are you passionate about? What is the dream or vision for you?
Yeah, for sure. I would say my whole channel, when I first began, I didn't really know what it's going to be about. I just made like videos all over the place that I thought would be interesting for me to make and also for other people to watch. But throughout time, I started to realize a pattern and a core pillar to all my content, and that reflected as to like what my true passion is and like what my goal is, which is growth. So whether if it's like diet and fitness videos, adulting videos, like college related videos, all types of videos, even commentary videos nowadays, they are all centered around growth or based on the core pillar of growth. For example, for commentary videos, I want to bring the audiences, my community with me on a journey to challenge the status quo way of thinking and challenge conventional like pop culture, beauty standards, beauty ideals, and so on, and question these things and to grow mentally. And then for diet and fitness, obviously, like to challenge our physical limits and take better care of ourselves and so on. So growth is something I'm very passionate about, and it's extremely broad. So there is truly like no limit to growth, which resonates with my channel name as well, because there was this quote that like one of my dance directors said in college that was, I don't remember the exact words, but he said, like, always do your better and not best because better has no limit. And I found that really empowering. So I want to live by that as my core value.
I love that. And if your passion is growth, like you're just gonna, that's just such a fulfilling source of meaning. I am so curious, like you said, you started just by making videos about all sorts of things and then realizing this recurring theme and pattern on growth. How did that get started? Like, what was the first video? Did you just sit down one day and you're like, I'm going to do this?
First video was actually not too much related to growth in terms of the core content, but it was a lot of growth to me as a creator. It was a video about UCLA dining halls, about all the food I ate, because I had this habit of taking a picture of like what I ate at the bomb UCLA dining halls every single day and sending that to my parents back in Canada to tell them that, you know, hey, I'm still alive, even though I'm like away from home. But yeah, that essentially created like 3 years of like this whole library of food pictures. And I was like, what do I do with this? Let's make a video out of it and show everyone how good the UCLA dining halls are, which they're kind of known for their food, like our school.
Wow. That's incredible. You sent a photo every day. So you said to let them know that you're okay.
Yeah.
And so first of all, my parents are also, I was born and raised in Canada, funnily enough.
Where?
Yeah, in a tiny little town in Ontario called Deep River.
Wow.
There's like 4,000 people who live there. My parents are from Shanghai. I was born and raised in Canada. And yeah, so that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
How long did you stay there for?
Only until I was 5 or 6. And the reason why is the small town, it was a bunch of nuclear power reactors, and the scientists who worked there lived in the town. And I don't know, my mom was like, we're literally raising our kids next to nuclear radiation. Like, maybe we should not do that.
Yeah, good call, Mom.
Yeah, my friends say it explains a lot. So at 5 or 6, we moved to Indiana. But I'm still Canadian at heart.
Aw.
Yeah.
No wonder you're so kind.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, not like the rest of these American people watching this video. Like, be nice. Be nice in the comments, okay?
No, they're also nice. Not really, but yes.
Like, JK. So when you mentioned sending all these photos to your parents, like, how did that start? Were you like trying to find like, I found with my parents, I've never like explicitly said, for example, I love you to my dad.
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, never. That's, yeah. I feel like it's an Asian thing. We, especially, I don't know if some people are able to do it. I feel like love, is just something very hard for me to verbalize.
Same.
Yeah.
I still haven't said it.
You haven't said it, huh?
Yeah.
I think I said it on a FaceTime call before, like, but it takes practice. I think it started with my friends, starting to say like I love you to my friends. At first, it was like very awkward because they had to say it to me first for me to like start to feel comfortable with like, oh, this is something that you should be able to say instead of like just feeling it in your heart.
I love that because I experienced something similar now with friends. I'm like, oh, I love you. I'm like, I love you too. And I still feel a little weird saying that because I'm like, well, I'm not like going to like marry you, which like
No.
I thought used to be like the required basis to say like, I love you to a friend. I'm like, well, no, there's different degrees and types of love.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly to you, having other people say it to me normalized it enough to where I was like, okay, I can say it and like it's chill.
Yeah.
But still not to my dad. Because I think, well, I love how you mentioned, like, I just picture you on this FaceTime. You're like talking about, I don't know, anything at the end. You're like, bye, I love you. And you're just like,
Yeah. I was like, oh, I said that. Whoops. But also, yay.
has he ever said it back?
Good question. I don't think so. Stop.
Zoe's dad, if you're watching this,
Or mom.
or mom,
There's
it's never too late. It's never too late to start.
No.
And now we understand, or rather, that was my guess. That's why you're like, oh, I just like took a photo of, like every single meal I had for 3 years into my parents. I'm like, that feels like a love language.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to say I love you, but like, I ate a banana today. You want to see a picture of my banana?
My like huge bowl of avocados. Like,
It's like, oh, like, thanks. And I had a picture of your parents be like, oh, she's eating well. She's eating avocados again. All right.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And that's so fascinating because I think being a creator, right? Like, personally, I think in an ideal world, more and more people would feel empowered to quote unquote create content.
Mm-hmm.
I ideally think we're in a world where making content is so commonplace in the norm. It's not like you make content, you're a creator. It's just like something you normally do, right?
Yeah. Like snapping a picture of your food is like creating content. Posting an Instagram story, like snapping to a friend is creating.
Exactly. And it's like empowering in its own way, right? In the same way, like today, it's not like you write emails to someone. I'm not like, you're an emailer. Let's talk about the emailer economy. How many emailers are there in this world? It's like, no, you're just emailing, right? I hope for a world where the barriers, both like technological, but also just like psychological, become so easy. As you said, that was like the insight behind why Snap and Instagram stories took off so much. They removed the psychological pressure behind, oh my gosh, I'm going to post something. Is it going to be good? And that pressure is removed a lot when you're like, okay, but we're all using the same iPhone cameras. So no one's like taking DSLR and making it super fancy. And it's going to disappear the next day. And it made people feel safer and more comfortable to just normalize, here's a quick photo of my food. And let me share a little bit about my day. And I think it's cool because that for you became a stepping stone. You took all these photos of your food, right? You sent them to your parents, subtle love language. And then like, oh, I can like make something even more from this. Mm-hmm. Your UCLA dining hall video.
For sure.
But like you make that first video and now I'm experiencing this a little myself because we do these pods and I'm like, you post in the beginning, nobody sees it.
Nobody. Yeah.
There's gotta be some other meaning or fulfillment. So what was that for you?
I think just being able to like see that I am capable of generating an idea and then taking that as a seed to like go through a whole thought process into making a final product, into a video. And that to me is empowering. Be like, oh, I can have an idea, but I can also take that idea to the next level and create a story from it. And I saw that I have the ability to do that. And that to me was like a huge roadblock removed where I was like, yes, this could be a potential. It may have taken me 4 weeks to make a 4-minute long video that like maybe by the time I'm 40, I'm able to make 10. But, if the math works out correctly, I might be able to improve and be like a lot more efficient.
What was the moment you realized like it was starting to work?
I would say actually courtesy to the pandemic, because I stopped for a year. I was like, no way do I have time for this. I was studying for the CPA exams.
You were a CPA.
Yes. I try to like get the test done within 1/4 of testing window, which is like very crammed. And at that time, I was like, no way in any shape or form can I make videos. But when the pandemic happened and I was working at the Big Four, minus the LA traffic, that was already a lot of extra time for me. That was like, yes, like in desperate need. That was like luxury to me. So I was like, let me use this time and see what we can do here. And that's like where my actual creative career began during the pandemic.
I love how for you, making content, so much of it has been tied to your personal life. Like your first video in some ways was a product of love, right?
Yes.
Between you and your parents and making something more of it. And it sounds like your creative renaissance began anew when you're like, well, I finally have time. Like CPA exams, now there's a pandemic, I can do something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of my first videos that actually blew up was about how I passed the CPA exam in 2 months.
Wow.
And like for the longest time, I could not get myself out of that niche. When I started making diet and fitness videos, people are like, how did you pass the CPA? How do you get into a Big Four? And I was like, but like this is not related to the abs exercise I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean?
You're like, look at my abs. look how great my 6-pack abs are. And
I
people
do
are like,
not
oh,
have
excuse
6-packs.
me, can you tell me the 6 ways that you can save money on your tax return? I'm not a simp, thank you.
Literally.
Okay, but now you've really broadened the focus of your channel. Like you said, you've done fitness, CPA exams, emotional wellness,
Yes.
relationships, commentary. At least from my perspective, I feel like people now just watch you for you.
Oh, thank you.
Do you still get like comments where people are like, but like, tell me more about the CPA exam?
Not about CPA exams, but I do get a lot of weight loss related questions. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Which I'm still happy to like give advices on, because I feel like health and wellness is not something you can just like be a check mark or like a checkbox you could just like check off and be like, I'm done, I'm healthy, I'm well, therefore I can like proceed along with like other things in life. No, like your body is yours to take care of for the entirety of your life.
It's never done.
It's never done. So I get like why people are still asking questions, and occasionally I still drop like diet and fitness related videos because it's still something I'm super passionate about.
So for you personally, what's helped prompt some of the changes in content that you've done over the years?
Oh my gosh, this is also a very funny story where it's not really an intentional change, and it was more so of circumstances. So because I have a 9-to-5 now in marketing instead of in Big Four public accounting, but nevertheless, it is a 9-to-5 and it's a corporate job. And I realized that it's not realistic for me to film a vlog every week, a fitness challenge every week, because the filming would take a week. And then even if I'm like super fast at editing and get it out in 1 or 2 days, that's like, I will burn out by like the 3rd week or something. So I was like, let me think about something that I can film within a day. Like writing could take longer, concept brainstorming could take longer, but at least if I could get it filmed in 1 day, then there is potential for me to keep up with my weekly upload. And it just so happened that when that girl trend popped up over TikTok and the internet, I decided to take it on another lens. And because of my background in fitness and wellness, I wanted to give my genuine thoughts on the topic of how I thought it was more so a chase after aesthetics instead of for actually like taking better care of yourself, and then decided to like hold a discussion on it. And that really like took off. And I was like, oh, I didn't know people cared about what I thought about on like popular culture trends and so on. So that's like how I slowly pivoted to commentary.
Makes a lot of sense. Also, side note, so why are you still working a full-time 9 to 5 job?
That's a very good question.
You're like, one I've gotten many times before. Thank you, Eric. Yeah.
No. I would say I definitely think like as a creator, it is like my goal and my dream to be a full-time creator someday. But I do think as a young professional, I still have a lot to learn from whatever you call it, corporate America, teams of different dynamics and different culture. And because I love video creating so much, I was like, if I still have a job, it needs to fulfill me. Not necessarily in monetary terms, but it needs to be rewarding in the sense that I am learning something valuable.
Wow.
So when it comes to marketing and digital marketing, I get to see the creative industry from the brand side and be on the brand side and understand what the brand wants. Essentially, the whole creator economy is in sync with the marketing industry. And I've worked as a creator and as the brand. And I feel like both of them have really great synergies where I can bring unique perspectives as a creator to my marketing job. And I can bring insights from the brand side to like when I collaborate with brands, I think about like, oh, what does a brand want from my corporate experience? And another thing is that during UCLA, we unfortunately did not have a degree or a program in marketing, which is something I always wanted to get into.
Which is why you were CPA.
Exactly. I studied business economics and minored in accounting, and it just so happened that I secured a sophomore leadership program in my sophomore year that led to an internship and full-time job offered technically in my sophomore year. And I thought it was cool to secure something so early on. So I didn't explore, which by the way, kids, you should totally explore all your options. Don't just take the first offer you get. Learned from experience. Yeah.
I really reinforce that. There's always the potential, oh my gosh, like I'm safe, the security, the risk aversion, and just believe that you're probably going to be really different as time goes on. And there's so many more things you're not even thinking of that you could do now. And when you lock yourself down, you miss out on all of that.
Yes. And they're very smart about it. That's why they recruit you when you're young. And when you're young, you're like treated really well by all these like corporations. You're like, oh yeah, I'm like killing it. I am getting a job so early on. I'm like basically halfway, like half a foot into a stable job in my sophomore year. And you're like, then like college, the rest of college will be a breeze, which is a way to go, but I would have preferred just to explore a bit more.
Because then you graduated and you got to go be an accountant.
I know. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is.
Well, what was the moment you're like, I need to stop doing this?
I would say like from the very beginning, I kind of already knew that was not the path for me. So for UCLA, a lot of the business economics kids have these like 3 general routes. It's either like public accounting, consulting, or investment banking. And for me at the time, I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I almost went the fashion design route when during like high school, but it was like either spending hours in an art studio building portfolio or focusing on IB, International Baccalaureate, kind of like the international version of AP, yes. Yeah. And then because I was scared of becoming a starving artist, I chose IB instead of, going the art route. And that like creative energy still needs to be released in one way or another. And it comes in full circle when it comes to videos, which I really am grateful for. But at the time of choosing a career path, I was like, which one of these 3 might take the least amount of time so I could potentially like still have a passion and hobby?
I love that. You're like, okay, I want to do something creative. Mm-hmm. I will pick one of these jobs because they are secure. Mm-hmm. But like the easiest, least time consuming one. So then I can do what I actually want on the side as a creator.
Yes. I'm sorry to the recruiters.
Oh, they're watching this.
Hopefully not.
They're going to comment on your videos and be like, tell me how to pass the CPA exam. Send.
Literally.
I felt something really similar for myself. In a way, I mean, that's what brought us to this moment here today of you and I together doing a pod. I similarly, growing up, I had so many creative feelings on things I want to do. I always loved talking, like acting, reading, writing. And I found the humanities like the easiest thing ever to do in high school and college, right? Because I actually liked it. I know it's crazy. You do better when you actually like something versus like, I know, right? Versus math and science, like it was such a slog. I just never liked it. I always hated it. And my parents, right? My dad's love language was, hey, I'll help you get a job in finance as an investment banker, And so I just spent so much time doing these things I really hated. And very similar to you, when I went to school, so I went to Harvard, I studied economics, and very similar in your junior year, when you do your internship, you come back and you actually, before even entering your senior year, you sign a full-time offer.
Yes, they make you sign early on.
They make you sign an offer. And they're catching you at a period where like you're a college student. So you don't have that much money. You like want a job.
Zero.
Yeah. Like going to Chipotle was a treat, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, oh my God, like prestigious finance job. So Zoe, I signed my offer to go back to investment banking. And well, actually, you know what? I don't remember if I signed. I verbally agreed. And then I reneged.
Oh.
I was so scared, but upon finally realizing this is going to be my life, I like looked back at it and I was like, was I actually happy? I was like, no. Why was I excited? Because of the prospect of job security and money. Why was I unhappy? Because I didn't actually like the day-to-day. And I think that's a really bad sign when you don't like the day-to-day that you need to do something different. So I did Renege and I was so scared. My dad was so upset at me. He was like, how could you do this? Like you're ruining your career. I had to call all the people I worked with during the summer and tell them I was reneging. And my vice president that I worked with, he yelled at me over the phone because he was super upset and it made him look really bad to his manager. And I totally get where he was coming from.
Yes.
And it ended up, because my dad was so paranoid, he made me tell my next job in consulting that I was reneging on my previous job, which then triggered a requirement on my next job to call the previous employer because they had some sort of agreement between each other to talk about these things. And so then I was like afraid of jeopardizing my future job as well. So it's really stressful. And then Zoe, ironically, my next job, which was in consulting, after 2-3 months, I realized the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't it either. And I got a job offer from Facebook actually to join as a product manager after 3 months of being a consultant. And I talked to a lot of mentors and friends. They're like, you'd be so stupid to leave this early. There's so much job security. Once you do 2 years in consulting, you can always go back. And I listened to them. But now I realize when you ask for advice, it's all from people telling you what they wish they had done or what they had done. And so I was asking the wrong people. I was asking people who, obviously they would have chosen to stay. So I stayed. And it wasn't a good idea because I got really burned out my second year. And then I went back to Facebook, Instagram later anyways. And I was like, so I ended up in the same place, but just later and poorer and slower.
No, but you learn to appreciate when you get there. You learn to appreciate it much more. For example, like I wish I hadn't gone the full public accounting route, like worked my butt off for a CPA license and so on, but the contrast makes you really appreciate and like discover like, holy crap, this is what it feels like to be passionate about something. When I was like working as a CPA while starting YouTube, I was like very dead and tired from both, but the difference is like night and day because I was tired, but I was like still like I felt like I could run like 100 miles for YouTube, not for CPA. And I'm sure you felt the same way. So even though like we might have made some quote unquote not perfect decisions, but at the end of the day, they help us gain more appreciation for what we're doing right now.
I love that. It makes me think of it as if you're doing what you like, you might be like day to day really stressed and tired, but you might be existentially satisfied.
Yeah.
In a way that you weren't before. And yeah, like making content and videos, it's really hard, but you like it.
Yes. It's an enjoyable kind of hard.
That's very similar for me. Like, I think that's a huge reason why I co-founded Karat, right? Because I was like, even though I wasn't explicitly aware of this at the time, I've always, to your point, knowing what it's like on the other side, I feel very grateful to get to be a part of the creator world, to get to work with people like yourself, to get to spend time building friendships and relationships, and now even to do things like this, where now I finally get to express a little bit of that creative energy. I find it very fulfilling.
A lot, actually. You are a creator, and you were working your cameras, working the microphones, and like angles.
And I'm having
everything.
fun. I'm having fun, even though I'm like, okay, well, Delia would have set this up before Zoe came in. I'm like, I like it. I enjoy it.
You're doing great.
Thank you so much.
Creator.
So, all right. So we're going to play a game now.
Okay.
36 questions to fall in love. Are you familiar with this?
I've heard of it, never played it.
So the whole concept, the New York Times wrote an article about this. They did a study where they took randomly selected pairs of people and they walked them through questions all around vulnerability. So like, hey, I'm going to share something about myself, and reciprocity. Like, please don't on it. Please share something back.
Okay.
And at the end of these questions, they found that many of these pairs of people actually ended up becoming good friends. And one pair actually fell in love and got married.
Oh, that's
Pretty
so
cool.
cute.
I know. So this game is based off of that. And there's 3 levels of questions. We're going to pull, 1 or 2 questions from each. And if you don't like the question, we can pull a different one. It's really just meant as a starting point for our conversations. When I'm going to count down from 3. And when I go 3, 2, 1, the very first thing we do actually before starting the game is we're going to make eye contact. That's how the game starts. And we're going to make eye contact. You're already making eye contact with me now. And I'm like, should I be looking at her? And the first person to blink or to look away.
Oh, wow.
So either of which, because if you only said when people look away, sometimes you have 2 people who are really just comfortable staring at each other. And that's the whole podcast is 10 minutes.
Like getting ready for a staring contest.
You're like getting ready. So whoever looks away or blinks, they're going to end up pulling the first card. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Preparing myself. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Shoot, my eyes are getting dry.
You blinked first. You blinked right before I did.
I'm literally like,
Yeah, my eyes are literally watering right now.
I know.
It's hard. It's hard.
We're getting so vulnerable.
I know. We're crying. This will be the thumbnail. Just tears in our eyes. And then they'll watch it and be like, oh, clickbait. I knew it.
I know.
Actually, we should feel like the title of this video should be like, Zoe Unlimited teaches you how to do taxes.
It's so boring that Eric cried.
Yeah, exactly. All your old viewers will come back and be like, oh my gosh, she's going to teach me how to be a CPA again. And be clickbait. She doesn't even like doing it. Feel so deceived.
JK, I was an auditor. I wasn't even in tax.
Huge scandal. I don't even know if people know the difference, but fair.
All right.
All right, level 1. You pull the first question. If it's a wild card, a lot of times we skip those because they're hard to do logistically. But other than that, just that's not a question.
Reminder: let go of your attachment to the outcome. Okay, taken noted.
We honored that. We'll pull another one for the actual question.
Sounds good. And I get to ask?
Yeah, you're asking me. You're asking it as yourself, asking me to answer it.
What's the first thing you noticed about me?
Okay, well, I think your hair. I think
Fair.
That's like the very honest answer because it's noticeable, right? And I think it's cool because it reveals an intention from your part, right? Obviously, people are going to see it. And so there's a message you're trying to convey or a personal meaning in it to yourself, right? And I don't necessarily know what that meaning is, but I think it's cool. I've thought about dyeing my hair one day. I'm a little too scared and self-conscious, but I think it's cool that you are. So
thank
now
you.
I got to ask you, what's the story behind your hair?
I actually did it last year for Coachella, just for overall transformation.
So really, it was 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It was, yeah. And One of my favorite artists, Melanie Martinez, always had like half hair.
Oh yeah, I love Melanie. She did Play
Yeah, Play Day.
And she had like all the music videos. Yeah, I love Melanie Martinez.
Yeah. And just so happened that like Corella had this hair as well. And like one of my favorite creators, Best Dressed, also had this. So a lot of people
I've
actually
seen
have
Best
it.
Dressed. Yeah. So you're like, oh, hey, I can do this too.
Yeah.
Well, then what helped shape the decision to keep it?
I think it just worked out better than I thought. I didn't think I could pull it off. I was like, okay, for Coachella, if it doesn't work out, I'll just like dye it back. And it grew on to me. I think it helped me unleash a side of myself where I was like, yeah, like why follow the conventional rules? Why not like try to go a little further and explore the edges and see like test out bold ideas. Don't be afraid to express yourself and see where that takes you.
Yeah, studies show when you meet someone who dresses unconventionally, it accentuates your pre-existing opinion and first impression of them. As in, hey, if you meet a Harvard Business School professor wearing red shoes and you think he's really smart already, you're like, wow, what a badass. He's even cooler. But if you think he's an idiot, you're like, that guy can't even put on his shoes right. So obviously I have a positive first impression of you. So I'm just like, oh, that's even cooler. Like, yeah,
thank you.
She has the intentionality to be unconventional. Pretty cool.
Thank you. I also think it like speaks out to how as humans we're all multidimensional. So there's not just like one particular identity, but we're all multifaceted, and there are like so many layers as to like our humanity and our human nature.
To quote Walt Whitman, we contain multitudes, as he said in Leaves of Grass. I'm curious, what are those personalities in you? Like, what do you feel? Obviously, there's a side that everybody sees on YouTube. What do you feel like are aspects of yourself that you don't share as much while you're on camera? And please answer this while looking into the camera. No.
Ooh. Okay, I'm looking. I'm not sure if this is captured on camera, but to like one of my closer friends, Hannah, she said her first impression of me was more so like a little bit intimidating. She thought of me as more of someone edgy. I could be a little bit intense for sure for whenever I'm like super goal driven and like goal oriented or like set my mind to something, I would just like shoot straight. But I would say I am sometimes a soft girl. I have my empathetic side. I'm actually, I cry a lot when it comes to touchy movies at like films and things like that. Yeah.
You get moved.
Yes.
You want to share.
Yes.
What's the last movie you remember crying?
Ooh. I don't remember.
That's fine. There are too many. It reminds me of that TikTok meme where it's like, looks like wholesome but would kill you. Like, looks like would kill you but is wholesome. Like, looks wholesome is wholesome. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You're like, looks like would kill you but is actually wholesome.
Yes. But could kill you. But is wholesome.
That I
Looking
feel
at the
like,
camera.
I mean, the two-tone hair is really helping with that. She might actually kill you guys. I don't know.
Put disclaimer.
Yeah, might actually really. Are you going to Coachella this year?
Yes.
Exciting.
Very.
So I've never actually like been to Coachella.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
Define really. Like, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so like last year, I was technically near Coachella at a brand house for 4 hours doing an activation for my company, Karat, working. Didn't go to any music festivals, literally just sit there. Not probably going to do that again because I don't think it was the most effective use of anybody's time. I don't really think that counts as going to Coachella.
You were almost there, though.
I was close to it. I was around Coachella.
I mean, there's a lot of festivity. There are a lot of festivities around. So technically, you were soaking in the vibe as well. So you were there.
While working.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. What a great vibe.
I was also working. I was vlogging and everything.
Okay, fine.
But like
we're all working.
We enjoy our work so much that it doesn't feel like work.
Wow.
So we're having so much fun.
I'll tell you, in that particular activation, I was not having a great time, but I'm glad that you were.
Yes.
So yeah, like I like don't really do these music festival things. I'm actually going with a few friends to EDC next month. I've never gone before. I'm also entirely sober. I don't drink. I've never done drugs in my entire life.
Me too.
Oh
Me
my
too.
gosh, high five.
Which is why, like, before going to Coachella last year, I was like having a mini mental crisis. I was like, this is like not what I'm going for. I don't really like drinking. I don't do drugs ever. And I like to go to bed super early. I am a grandma at heart. And
wearing like blonde black hair.
wearing
Coachella,
like a spiky
choker.
Yeah, that's like my hidden side, so to speak. But yeah, so I was like, I don't know if this is my vibe. But actually I had a really great time being sober the entire time, just like enjoying music, enjoying the energy from the crowd. So I think you will like it.
That's actually really encouraging because I had the same concerns about EDC.
Right? I was like, people going to like these festivals are probably going to do a lot of crazy things that I'm not interested in. But actually, you can have a good time sober or not sober.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on going sober. And I was like,
yeah,
I don't want to harsh the vibe. And my friend, he was super, super nice about it. He's like, hey, like, we would love to have you. It's totally fine. We don't mind. It'll be good. And then the last thing that really got me, he's like, one day you're going to be too old to come. I was like, oh, that's... Now I'm worried because years are slipping by. So
you're so young. You're so young.
That was definitely the final point where I was like, I will be joining you at EDC this year. I will be sober, but we will see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're gonna have the most amount of fun
now
because
like,
and you'll remember it, because otherwise I feel like it's a little wasteful.
So what do you actually do at Coachella? Like, what do people? I feel like people watching this are like, how does Eric like, live his life? No, like that's an actual question. Like what do you do at Coachella?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like going too early during the day because it's too hot. So I tend to go around sunset or right around sunset. So I'm not burning under the sun, and then enjoy the different sets of music. But during the day, because the previous night ended so late already, I wake up pretty late, and then there are some like activations like the Revolve Fest or like different brand events that you go check out, have a bit of fun, take cute Instagram photos for your Instagram.
So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be invited to these brand activations.
I could bring you if you go.
Thank you. That's very flattering. You're like, just check out the most fashionable brands that want you to be there because you look good and add value to their brand. I'm like, here's a photo of Eric at Revolve. Like, wow, Revolve stock went up 10%. No.
Or just like enjoy the food, soak in the vitamin D, chill, have a good time. If you're there with friends, just like, take it as like a mini road trip, a bonding experience.
That's very, very wholesome.
Thank
All right,
you.
let's do another question.
Okay.
I'll pull
all this like spurred up from the topic of hair.
Of course. Hair is powerful. I'll do level 2.
It is.
Here's a good question. If you could get to know someone in your life at a deeper level, who would that be and why?
Ooh. Why?
So someone in your life that you'd like to get to know at a deeper level.
I would actually say my mom. Even though, like, obviously, I feel like when you're a family, like, you know each other in and out, and like you don't really have a guard against each other. But when it comes to like a parental relationship, especially in an Asian household, I feel like there's always that like some form of segregation between the generations where you feel like, oh, I should like keep my distance or not probe too far, and get to know them on like a deeper level beyond them just being your parent. I mean, I love my mom a lot. She is definitely a role model for me, and especially the fact that she pivoted from being an engineer to an entrepreneur earlier in the days of China, and then like working in business, working as an entrepreneurial woman, building a team, earlier days, and still like raising me while being like a boss woman. So I look up to her, but also because I respect her a lot and feel a little intimidated by her, there's like a lot of distance between us. And I would say that like she's not 100% supportive of my creative career. So that added a lot of distance. So I would love to get to know her better.
I really get that. And both, you love her, she loves you too. And she's done so many cool things, but knowing she has her reasons, but not feeling that support on, it's really hard to do a creative career. Like it's already just really, really hard. And it's even harder when the people you care about are like,
I know. It's funny how like some parents will, if their kids do content creation, they will like blast their group chat, like blast their profiles and be like, support my kid, whatever, vote for them, like watch this video, like, subscribe, comment. My parents, I don't think they know my channel, which is good and bad. Like I could just do whatever I want on social media and keep that very separate. But there is still like a tiny part of me that wish they were a little bit more supportive.
You work really hard on it. You do a good job. And I think it's so understandable for a daughter to go to her parents and be like, look, like I did this.
Yeah. So that.
I completely get it. And yeah, I feel like with my parents too, right? I don't talk to them much, honestly. I haven't visited home for 4 years or so.
Oh, wow.
Because I know that they love me and I love them. But to your point, there's a generational divide in how my dad sees the world working and how I see it working and what he thinks I should do versus what I want to do. And every time we talk, we just argue. And
I feel that.
In some ways, it's easier to maintain good relations by not being too close and arguing with each other. So every time when I switched careers from banking to consulting to product management and tech, from tech to startups, my dad always was like really disapproving. In fact, I remember one time, like when I switched from banking to consulting, and my dad was like, how could you make this mistake? When I like switched to tech to join Instagram, he's like, why would any engineer ever listen to you? When I told him I want to start a company, he was like, why would anyone ever give money to you? And it really sucked because I knew he was coming from a place of fear and uncertainty. But as you know, whenever you're trying to do something new, it's already hard. I'm already thinking all of these worries and concerns. I'm not stupid. But if I want to do it anyways, it sucks when you hear someone else repeating the doubts that you already have in your mind.
Yeah. An entrepreneur told me once, like the way he sees it is that as parents, they're willing to take those risks for us, but because they love us, they don't want us to take the risks for ourselves. Like obviously we are aware of the risks and we are willing to take them on ourselves, but their love language, so to speak, from a perspective of care is like trying to still shield us from those like potential risks.
A lot of people in this world, right? We think it's a natural tendency, right? I've done what I've done. And I did it because it was the right thing to do and I know what I'm doing. Because if that weren't true, then I have to accept the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, and that's really scary and bad. Maybe I made mistakes. And then if I know what I'm doing and my son or my daughter or my child wants to do something that I think is a bad idea and I love them so much, I'm going to go really hard on telling them that. And then the son or the daughter or the child, which is like us, we're just like, but like you're wrong.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really fly. I've talked to, even just through my work at Karat, I've talked to like over a dozen, probably like 20 parents.
Oh, wow.
And the most frustrating conversations are ones where the parents are like, there are several creators I've talked to. They're like 15, 16, 17. They have like hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. And their parents want them to like stop doing and just focus on getting into college. And it just kills me because I have those conversations and I try to explain to them like how remarkable and how proud you should be of your child to do something like this so early. And it never works. Now I find parents who are supportive from the very start too. That's fine. But I'm saying parents who are really coming in with that mentality, I'm like, it doesn't ever matter what I say. They're not going to change their minds.
No. At some point you have to realize that like, it's fine to have divergence or like a discrepancy between your own values and opinions from your parents. And I think that divergence is the beginning of you truly becoming an individual yourself. That was like very hard and painful for me because growing up as someone who was like very family oriented and grew up in a very loving and caring family, like most of my values like echoed whatever my family like valued, basically. And it's very painful to realize one day that like they think my career choice is trash and they think I'm not talented, which is like fair for them to think. But then
But
at the
also
end of
just
the day,
really wrong. We
yeah.
can both acknowledge why it's understandable they think about that, but also be like, but no, that's wrong.
But we're doing this for us.
Yes.
And because we have enough internal drive to keep us going.
Just really sucks though when the people you love very, very much in your life are like, oh, that's trash. You're like, ha ha ha.
I know.
I guess that's fine. Smile, cry inside.
I know. No, I cry outside too.
Yeah. You're like inside and outside.
Yes.
Ignore the spiked collars. Soft girl.
This is my statement piece, but like, yeah, soft girl.
Yeah,
only
please,
sometimes. Only
I
sometimes.
get that. Yeah. I feel like, so too, there's this, like for you mentioned like growing into your own identity beyond your parents. Like what helped you realize that like, hey, I actually want to do things different. I am a different person.
I think two things. First is that like calling from being a creator is strong enough to propel me forward, independent from that like previously existing support system that's been like carrying me along the way. When it first dropped, obviously, it actually, this was like the time I had situational depression in 2021 when I lost a very good opportunity because of some visa complications that was supposed to help me become a creator and like save me. It felt like a exit, the only exit to leave my big four job. And then when I got the offer, I was like, yes, this is like meant to be. I went through like rounds and rounds of interview, portfolio review, and so on. So I got the opportunity for a really like well-established creative tech company that's supposed to support my creative career and also like me collaborating with them to help sell their products and so on. But then because of like visa complications, at the end they revoked the offer. So that was already painful on my part. But I was like, okay, I already know like clear as day I want to be a creator. Like at the end of the day, creativity is what I live and breathe. It's like something I figured out. So I told my family beforehand, I was like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, I'm still going to be a creator. And they were like, yeah, sure. Because, at the time I had the potential offer from this really well-known corporation. And they were like, okay, it's safe and secure. But once that was like revoked, my entire family, like including extended family from China, they were just like stabbing on the existing wound. And like everyone's calling me, telling me, don't do this. Like, don't quit your job. Like, you should not quit it because you are going to become irrelevant so soon. Like, content is a joke. Like, your passion is a joke. You're not gonna make it as a creator. But that was hard on my end. But I think it's still like it angered me a lot, and I wanted to prove to myself that like this is the path I want to choose. Therefore, I'm going to like do everything I want to make that my reality. And at the same time, I'm really thankful that at the time I met that was like the beginning of my friendship with some really, really valuable friends who became my LA family. And they were extremely, extremely supportive along the way, and made me realize that, hey, I can exist as a whole different entity from my family, from my existing support system. And I can either support myself or just like create a new community with friends with my existing like audiences and so on. So like rebuilding a system of support for myself and rebuilding like an identity. So that was like the divergence point, or what I say to myself as like the point of growing up.
That's really powerful.
Thank you.
I think one, make a choice. Hey, I'm going to do this. I care enough and I've been through enough things that I am choosing I will do this. And it is hard and there are people not supporting you, but you still did. And then the second step is not just choosing to do it, but actually doing it and just almost rebuilding an entire support system to help you toward that goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard.
I'm sure like your experience is very similar as well. And it's also kind of therapeutic for me to create videos, especially if they're more personal. Like, yeah, I do journal, but I also journal with video. So that's kind
same.
of.
Yeah, there's a joke that men do podcasts instead of going to therapy.
Oh, that is so true. That is so
And
true.
I was like, well, I do therapy, but the podcasts help.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to your point, I think about this a lot, right? Like, I think everything in life is a choice. And I used to, many situations, be like, well, I'm forced to do this. Like, I don't have any options. Like, given the situation, I just have to do this. And I resent and hate you for putting me in a situation where I have to do this. It's like, no, it still was a choice. It's just I'm choosing between two outcomes that I didn't feel very good about, but I still was choosing at the end. And I think that sometimes choosing to do the thing that is harder also helps strengthen your resolve on who am I? Like outside all the external achievements and validation and titles and numbers and resume points, you can by yourself alone know the type of person you are based off the choices that you know you had to make. And then I think the other part you said around like, hey, like building a support system, I am not that close to my family. And what that means is I have had to build friendships and support systems outside of them. And it's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think going back to one of the very first points we talked about, I often find it really, really hard to leave relationships that aren't going to work because I often end up seeing that partner as my family, the one I chose, because I'm not as close to my actual one. And sometimes that's not good. But it is helpful in that, like, I do always try and find people around me that I feel like understand what I'm trying to do.
For sure. And they're
Yeah.
definitely drawn to you for like your spark of energy as well. Energy feeds off of each other. And that's how you're able to like foster good relationships.
I am very impressed by, I think, the hardest things are when you feel like you're close to something that's going to just solve the problem and then it disappears. I've been through that. In a way, it hurts even more than if you never had the shot in the first place.
I think so too. It's like, here it is, but just kidding. Let me take that away.
Why God play such a cruel joke on me to give me the potential that what could have been.
Yeah.
And then having to go through the process of being like, okay, well, I'm going to do this anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really get that. Shall we do another question?
Sure.
Level 3. Now it's your turn.
Okay.
I think we're ready.
How does one earn your vulnerability? Have I earned it? How can I earn more?
I always feel comfortable sharing when other people share with me, right? Because being a human being in this world is so painful and hard that I look for people where we can talk about the hard and painful and sad things together. And for me, I appreciate you going through everything you've been through. I struggle with depression on a semi-regular basis. And it's really hard because I know that part of it is environmental, but part of it is there's probably something in my brain chemistry that's just not quite there. And when I'm feeling good, I remind myself, well, those elements also help me do creative things that maybe I couldn't if I were otherwise. But when I'm sad, it's really hard. And for me, it's always helpful to know when other people are comfortable sharing and talking about that as well. And so I feel just by sharing what you've been through, I feel comfortable being vulnerable back in return.
Amazing. And I think you definitely created a very safe and comfortable environment for me to be able to share that.
Yeah, because you've done so many cool things and life is just, I think people forget when they watch to create content, to make something, so much goes into that even having seen your videos, I just had a sense that there was a lot that had to go on for you as a person to just make the video. There's a saying, someone once asked a number of successful startup founders, like, oh, how do you build the perfect startup? And their answer was a little facetious. They're like, oh, well, like, just like make yourself perfect and then just do what comes naturally. It's like, wow, gee, thanks. And I think there's a corollary here. When you look at creative work, it's like, well, how did you make that? Well, like sometimes the hard work isn't just the process of actually making it. The hard work is like, I'm the person who made it and getting to that point even.
Yeah. I think as a creator, when you think of creation as, you just have to live your life to the extent that you want and then tell the story. It like takes off so much pressure off of you.
And listening to you describe your content journey, a lot of it is complementary to your own life. Remember your very first video, right? At UCLA, sending these little mementos of love to your parents, right? Revisiting when you're thinking through your career and do I want to be CPA? Do I want to do something different to everything you're doing now? And I think people might not appreciate like, oh, here's like, oh, Zoe just dropped a video. Cool. Well, like there's a lot going on in your life that influences your ability to go and just make that video.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do, now it's my turn. We'll finish up with a couple more.
Okay.
So I'll pull
Sounds
level
good.
3. Alrighty. When this game is over, what will you remember about me?
Ooh. That's a good question.
You're like, Eric is also Canadian.
True. That's why he's nice.
Explains so much. He moved when he was young, but we'll give him a pass.
I think what I really admire about you is your ability to, for example, when you revoked your offer for your investment banking roles, like despite the immense amount of pressure and anxiety that like pressure has generated, you're not fearful of being yourself. And that's really inspiring to me. And that's like something that really stood out and I will remember you by.
Thank you. I think I'm anxious about many things, but the most important thing it is to try and be myself. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't drink or do drugs, because I'm like, cool, I might not be feeling great right now, but I'm still me. And to be clear, I know you're still you under the influence of all those other things. I have many friends who do this, and also medication is very important. And there are many, many ways to be yourself. But for me, I've always felt a little bit of anxiety around, wait, am I not really just feeling myself? And maybe sometimes that's to my detriment. If I'm like, am I doing this because I want to? But it is something I care very deeply about. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that the ability to stay genuine to yourself is incredible, because I feel like as human beings, we're so good at deception. We're very good at lying to ourselves and to like convincing ourselves to live a life that we think we quote unquote wanted. I was for the longest time thinking, like stability is what I want, like having a stable job.
You were literally a CPA. You were an auditor and accountant.
I was like screaming inside. Yeah. Just like crying every day to the point, and then like actually like physically crying every day. My body was reacting in a way like, you can't do this anymore. And then I realized, no, I cannot. Yeah.
I get that. All right. Last question.
Okay.
Here you go.
This is like tarot card reading.
I know.
Let me figure out your future.
There's a really funny level 3 one that's like, if we were a band, what would our band name be? I'm like, why is this level 3?
What do you think my superpower is? I love how it's singular. Why can't it be plural?
Oh, yeah. Damn, card manufacturers. Way to judge and put us in boxes.
Exactly.
Boom.
It's called Zoe Unlimited for a reason. Why are we limiting
It's like
things?
Zoe 10-dimensional limited only. You've maxed out. So I think only one superpower. It's like I picture like you rubbing the lamp and a genie coming out, and he's like, "What's your wish?" And I'm like, "Unlimited wishes."
Duh.
Obviously, I think the willingness to do what you want and who you want to be, even if everything is and everyone just is mad at you and not supporting you, and life is really, really hard, you're still gonna make the choice to try and fulfill who you want to be.
Thank you. That's a really great superpower.
It is a great superpower.
And I'm honored that you think that way.
Yeah. All right. Zoe, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you feeling?
Great.
Yeah? You're like, oh.